Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to share a really special story. It's about one of the greatest heroes you could ever imagine, the mighty Bhishmadeva. And this isn't just any story about his life. It's about his beautiful, brave, and loving final goodbye.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever, won a really big game? Or maybe you finally finished a super hard project for school. You know you should feel happy, right? But for some reason, deep inside, you just feel kind of sad? Or maybe a little empty? Well, that is exactly how a great king named Yudhishthira felt. He had just won this huge, world-changing war, but instead of celebrating, his heart just felt so heavy. So King Yudhishthira thought, I can't be a good king like this, not with this heavy heart. He knew he needed help. He needed answers. And you know what? He knew exactly who to go to. The wisest, bravest person in the whole world, his granduncle, the amazing Bhishmadeva.
All right, so King Yudhishthira gets his brave brothers together, and they all set off on this really important journey. And get this, just picture it. They're riding in these incredible chariots, just gleaming with gold, pulled by the best horses you've ever seen. And they weren't alone. The great sage Vyasa, the one who wrote down all the famous stories, he was there to guide them. And at the very heart of this whole group was their best friend, Lord Krishna. I mean, what a crew.
So they get to the battlefield, and you'd think they'd find Bhishma in some fancy tent or a palace, right? Nope. They found this mighty hero lying on a bed made completely out of arrows. Yeah, arrows from the battle. And even though that sounds super painful, he looked so peaceful. It was like a bright star had just gently floated down from the night sky to rest there.
And get this, they weren't the only ones who showed up. Oh no, it was like an all-star team of the wisest people in the entire universe had gathered there. You had sages who could travel through the heavens, like Narada. You had Vyasa, who wrote everything down. Even Parashurama, the super-powerful warrior sage. All these amazing souls came from everywhere just to be there for Bhishma. That's how you know this was a really important moment. So, Bhishma opens his eyes, and when he sees the king and his brothers, his whole face just fills with love. And what's the very first thing he says? It wasn't about him or about the arrows or his pain. No, he looked right at them, and with tears in his eyes, he said, "Oh, this is just so wrong, that you, who are the sons of goodness itself, had to go through so much suffering." See? Even then, all he could think about was their pain. That's how much he loved them.
And that leads us right to the king's big question. And it's a question that I think we all have sometimes, right? It's why? If the Pandava brothers were so good, if they always tried to do the right thing, and if they had Lord Krishna himself with them, why? Why did they have to suffer so much?
Well, Bhishma's first answer is pretty deep. He said, some things are just part of a really big, mysterious plan that we can't always understand. He said it's like, imagine you're looking up at the sky. You see all the clouds drifting along, right? Well, you can't see the wind that's pushing them, but you know it's there. He said, time is kind of like that wind. It moves everything and everyone along, and we can't always see the big reason why things are happening the way they are.
So Bhishma's advice to the king was really practical. He said, look, stop worrying so much about the why. You can't control the wind, but you can control what you do. His advice was to just accept the big plan and focus on your duty. And for King Yudhishthira, that meant putting his own sadness aside and focusing on the most important job he had, to be a good king and take care of his people with love.
Okay, so that was some really good advice, right? But that was just part one. Bhishma, he had something else to share. A much deeper secret, the real secret. And it was all about one person, Krishna. So here's the secret. You see, the Pandava brothers, they saw Krishna as their dear cousin, their most trusted friend, their awesome chariot driver. And he was all those things. But Bhishma knew something more. He knew that this person they called their friend was actually the Lord of the whole universe, the soul of everyone. He was just pretending to be a regular person because he loved them that much and wanted to be close to them.
Can you just imagine how Bhishma felt? His heart was just overflowing. He looked at Krishna and said, with tears of pure love in his eyes. Just look at how much he loves his friends. He was completely amazed. He said, "Here I am at the end of my life, and Krishna, the Lord of everything, has come all this way just so I can see him?" For Bhishma, that was the most incredible gift in the whole world.
And in that moment, something magical happened. All the pain from all those arrows, it just vanished. All the worries, all the sadness, it all just melted away. Bhishma's heart became completely calm, totally peaceful, and it was just overflowing with love for Krishna. And from that place of pure love, he started to pray.
And his prayers were memories. He remembered seeing Krishna on the battlefield, his face all covered in dust, kicked up by the horses. He remembered how Krishna's skin was even pierced by the arrows that he, Bhishma, had shot. But here's the amazing part. He remembered that through it all, Krishna was smiling. He was actually enjoying it because it was all part of their special relationship of love.
And then he remembered this other story. This is incredible. So Krishna had made a promise that he wouldn't fight in the war, but Bhishma, he had made a promise that he would make Krishna break his promise and fight. So what did Krishna do? To make sure his friend's promise came true, Krishna broke his own promise. He leaped off the chariot, grabbed a chariot wheel, and ran toward Bhishma like he was going to attack, just to make Bhishma's vow come true. Wow. That's how much he loves his devotees.
So for his very last prayer, Bhishma made one simple, loving request. He said, "My dear Lord, my beloved Krishna, could you just stay here for a moment? Please let your beautiful smiling face be the very last thing my eyes see as I leave." That's it. That's all he wanted. Not fame, not rewards, just one last look at the face of the one he loved most.
And then it was time. The great hero said goodbye, and it was so peaceful. First, he pulled his mind back from everything else in the world. Total focus. Second, he fixed his eyes and his heart right on Lord Krishna standing there. Third, he let his own soul, his own life, merge back into the great soul of the Lord. And then, with one last, gentle breath, he became silent. And in that perfect silence, the most amazing things started to happen. Everyone there, the kings, the sages, the brothers, they all became completely still. It was like the whole world was holding its breath. Then you could hear soft drums playing from up in the sky. The great sages began to praise Bhishma's amazing life, and a shower of beautiful, sweet-smelling flowers started to fall down from the heavens. And after seeing all of that, after witnessing such a beautiful, loving goodbye, King Yudhishthira's heavy heart was finally light again. All his sadness, all his worries, they were just gone. They were replaced by the peace and love he had just seen. And so he went back home to his kingdom, and just like his granduncle Bhishma told him to, he ruled with kindness and love for the rest of his life.
You know, Bhishma's final lesson wasn't really just for the king. It's for you and for me, for all of us. He showed us that the biggest, most powerful thing in the whole universe is love, and that the best way to live our lives, and maybe even the best way to say goodbye one day, is with a heart that's just full of it. So that leaves us with a little something to think about, doesn't it? If you could fill your heart with just one beautiful memory or one loving thought, what would you choose?